Hi, Paraton weather meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Monday morning, August 2nd. A very, very comfortable morning here in the Mid-Atlantic region following the passage of another strong cold frontal system. That frontal system has ushered in yet another comfortable air mass, and looks like much of this week will be below normal across much of the eastern half of the nation. We, of course, had a comfortable weekend. In fact, the first day of August on Sunday was quite comfortable. Philadelphia, for example, only reached a high temperature yesterday of 77 degrees, some 10 degrees below normal for this time of the year. Some of the suburban areas to the north and west of Philly actually stayed in the upper 60s for much of the day, as there was a lot of cloud cover, a couple of showers associated with that incoming frontal system. That front produced some strong storms last night, but nothing severe. By the way, in terms of that severe weather outbreak on Thursday in the Mid-Atlantic region, the National Weather Service sent out some employees to investigate the damage on Friday following the tornado outbreak of late Thursday. And indeed, the tornado that hit Bucks County, Pennsylvania, Bensalem Township was rated as an EF3. Quite a strong tornado for this part of the nation. Not unprecedented, but certainly quite rare. That tornado moved across the river into Mercer County, New Jersey, and there were multiple tornadoes in New Jersey as well last Thursday. And in fact, all the way down to Columbia, Maryland, where it was determined that an EF0, a weak tornado, hit Columbia, Maryland. So even south of the Mason-Dixon line, there was some tornadic activity last Thursday. Nothing last night except for some brief downpours. Now, before we get into the weather outlook for the CONUS, the continental U.S., and also we'll talk a little bit about the tropical situation, I want to just point out that next week, not this week, but next week, Perseid meteor shower, the annual Perseid meteor shower, actually reaches a peak next Wednesday night, Thursday night, August 11th, August 12th. Make sure to mark your dates. It should be a good show this year because the moon will only be 13% illuminated, and it actually will set pretty early in the evening before the best viewing time period, which is generally about 11 p.m. all the way to 3 or 4 a.m. So again, next Wednesday night, Thursday night, Perseid meteor shower reaches a peak, and it should be a good show this year. Well, let's talk now about the tropical situation. It's been a very quiet period over the last few weeks in the Atlantic Basin, and NOAA's National Hurricane Center expects no activity over the next couple of days. I do believe, however, that by the middle part of August, we'll have much ramping up of the tropical activity in the Atlantic Basin, and the second half of August could actually turn out to be quite an active period. Let's talk about the reasons why. Well, a couple of things I like to look at this time of the year to kind of get a better handle on the tropical situation. First of all, the Madden-Julian oscillation. I'm not showing that right now, but that is rotating around into what is typically a more active period for tropical activity in the Atlantic Basin. So that's factor number one as to why I believe activity will ramp up by the time we get to the 10th, maybe the August 10th to August 20th time period in this month. Another thing I really like to look at, 500 millibar height anomalies. Whenever you get high pressure ridging building aloft over the northeastern part of the U.S. or the southeastern part of Canada, that typically opens the door for tropical activity to move from the east to the west into the southeastern U.S., into the Gulf of Mexico, certainly into the Bahamas as well, in the Caribbean Sea, and indeed, watch what happens over the next 5 or 10 days or so. This is the 500 millibar height anomaly pattern on average for the current 5-day period. Notice upper level low over the Midwest, contributing to the unusual cool temperatures for this time of the year. Again, will be below normal in the mid-Atlantic, but also throughout much of the eastern U.S. for much of this week, the first full week of August. But keep your eye on this area right here, southeastern Canada, New England. Watch what happens here. Notice the orange just building. We're now out to days 6 to 10 here, August 7th to August 12th. On average for that 5-day period, we have higher heights to normal over the northeastern part of the country. Go out a little farther in time, and indeed, Here we are all the way out to days 10 to 14, August 11th to August 16th, that 5-day period. Higher heights to normal right there over New England, over the southeastern part of Canada. And indeed, this is always a red flag this time of the year, at least one of the things I like to look at. Kind of opens the door for tropical activity to push from the east to the west right into this region here. So this is something we'll watch for, again, with strong high pressure region building up to the north and east. Expect Atlantic Basin tropical activity to ramp up as we progress to the middle part of August. Perhaps there may be an impact near the East Coast or the Gulf Coast as early as the August 10th to August 20th time period. So something we'll watch for over the next couple of weeks. Well, let's get back to the continental U.S. and the near term here. Let's start off with a look at this is NOAA's prediction for the total precipitation amounts over the next 5 days between this morning, Monday morning, and Saturday morning. A couple areas of interest I want to emphasize here. First of all, there'll be a ton of moisture over the next few days across the Gulf coastal region right in here, and that will spread up along the eastern seaboard over the next few days. Exactly how far to the north and west that could penetrate, still a little bit unclear, but certainly the chance for some precipitation in the form of rain, making it all the way into the I-95 corridor region sometime during the second half of the work week. We're talking maybe Thursday, Friday, even Saturday time period. There is some precipitation depicted here by NOAA, but the heaviest stuff stays from the Delmarva Peninsula region all the way across the eastern Carolinas to the Gulf Coast. A ton of moisture, again, in the Gulf coastal region and across much of the eastern seaboard over the next 5 days or so. Notice out here in parts of the western U.S. like Nevada and Arizona, far less rainfall than they've actually experienced over the past week or two. There's been some flooding downpours out, especially across Arizona, but even into western Utah and Nevada. Looks like back to a warm and dry period for that part of the nation. Over the next 5 days, however, there'll still be some monsoonal type moisture across New Mexico and Colorado, really extending all the way up into Montana. And this part of the nation, this is kind of a blessing here to see some decent rainfall because it's been quite hot in the Pacific Northwest, and some rainfall will certainly help with any wildfire situation that has developed across the Pacific Northwest. Well, let's now take a look at the 6Z operational run of the GFS in terms of 850 millibar temperature anomalies. And boy, did August start off quite nicely in much of the eastern part of the nation. Again, some areas had temperatures confined to the 70s, even the upper 60s. There was one unofficial report I saw this morning in Chester County, Pennsylvania, northwestern Chester County, held in the 60s, which was the coolest August 1st in 100 years in that part of the Mid-Atlantic region. Look at how widespread this area below normal temperatures is as we start the new work week, the first full week of the month of August. Below normal from Texas and Oklahoma all the way up into the southeastern part of Canada. Now let's move forward here and just watch how persistent this is all the way now into the middle part of the week. Still below normal from the southeastern part of Canada in terms of temperatures all the way down to Texas and Oklahoma. Certainly above normal conditions out in much of the western U.S. and it really kind of hangs on throughout, again, much of this week. This is Thursday morning. We'll go all the way to Friday morning. Finally, at this time, we're getting back in perhaps the mid to upper 80s in places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, back to normal. Right now, the normal high, I think, in Philly is about 87 degrees, and again, they held at 77 yesterday. Saturday morning, most of the suburban areas across the I-95 corridor region in the Mid-Atlantic dropped to the 50s. In fact, Allentown, Pennsylvania, actually broke their record low on Saturday morning. Quite impressive because it broke the record that stood since 1936, which ironically was probably one of the hottest, if not the hottest summer ever across the U.S. Well, now let's take a look at the surface forecast maps, and again, watch all that moisture across the Gulf states and how it creeps up the East Coast, at least to the southern part of the Delmarva Peninsula. But starting off today with high pressure in control, a nice north to northwest flow of air in the lower levels of the atmosphere throughout much of the northeastern quadrant of the nation. Again, 10 degrees below normal for this time of the year. And here we go. This really starts to blossom here across the southeastern U.S. Again, a lot of monsoonal moisture still across New Mexico and Colorado, all the way up into Montana, which is a good news for that part of the nation. But here we go. Now, low pressure will try to organize. We talked about this last week, that we'll watch out for the possibility of low pressure kind of consolidating this moisture that will be available across the Gulf Coast and moving into the eastern part of the nation. Again, how far north and west this comes, still a little bit unclear. This is the midweek forecast map. Certainly the eastern Carolinas could get a very heavy rain by the middle part of the week, and that could extend all the way up into the Delmarva Peninsula, at least the southern half of the Delmarva Peninsula. And some of that rain could work its way up right into the I-95 corridor region. Not shown on this particular model run by the GFS, but watch out across D.C., Philadelphia, even New York City. There could be some rain later in the week, but for today, a beautiful day. High temperatures well below normal this time of the year. Quite a bit of sunshine and low humidity as well. Now keep an eye on the tropics over the next, let's say, 10 to 20 days or so. August 10th to August 20th may be a time period of concern across the eastern seaboard or the Gulf coastal region, as I believe the Atlantic Basin will become a much more active place for tropical activity as we progress to the middle part of the month of August. That's it for now. For ParatonWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.